Hello, and welcome to another episode of Garage Talks. We're going to continue talking about all the NBA free agency in this episode with all the moves that took place over the last few days and the weekend. Also, happy 4th of July to all of our listeners. Thank you for always tuning in. So, we'll start off by going through each team one by one and kind of ranking the deals, the grades that we can give out. So for the Bucks, they ended up re-signing Middleton. They brought back Brook Lopez and Robin Lopez. Jay Crowder came back also on a one-year deal, and then they signed Malik Beasley. I feel like Bucks did like an A minus. Their main goal was to bring back Lopez and Middleton. And I think the deal came at a very solid deal. Middleton got 3 years of 102 million, and Brook Lopez came back on a 3 year deal. So I think it's great that they brought their team back. They also got to bring in back Crowder and Beasley on very minimum deals to surround Giannis. Hopefully he's healthy this season with good shooters. Next, I am going to give the Phoenix Suns a B minus. I think they got great depth on their bench with everyone pretty much shooting over 40% from the 3 point last season. So I think it's a great signing for them to be surrounded with Durant, Beal, Booker. I think Booker will end up running point, even though initially I was thinking it's going to be Beal. But I think it's going to be Booker that's going to be running point with all these shooters. So should be a great driving kick season for them as long as these shooters show up. I think Suns should have a very good chance of being one of the top three seeds. Next, we got Golden State. I give them an A. They brought back Draymond Green, like I said in the last episode. They were the only team to give him 100 million. I think anywhere else he goes, he gets maybe 75, 80. And we can also account for their trade for Chris Paul. Based on the interview so far, it seems like they're kind of not getting along. But I think over time, as the system sets in with Chris Paul, with his playing time, rest, I think it's going to be great. Not only for the starters, but I think the bench players are now going to truly come out and show up. For example, Jonathan Kuminga. I think Chris Paul is a great asset for him because he can now play in ways that will benefit Kuminga's game. The next team I want to talk about is the Timberwolves. I think it was great, basically a no-brainer that they gave Ant to the max. It seems like that's the direction the franchise is going in. They have been making the play-in. They actually made the playoffs this year. They lost 4-1, but I think they're finally in the right direction. I do believe they should get rid of Cat. Not that he doesn't fit the system, but I think it's been long enough that we all know that he's not that guy. Uh, so I think they could get great value for Cat if they send him to maybe New York or some other team that's is right there in contention, but they're not title contenders nor they're one of those bottom tier teams. In my mind, I think something like the Sacramento Kings could work. The Knicks could work. Maybe Washington. These are the few teams where I think Cat can make an impact right away if he's traded. Next, I want to talk about the Lakers. I give them a B plus. They kind of brought back the band also with Reeves, Russell, Uchimura, but they also got exceptional pieces in Gabe Vincent, Serene Prince, Jackson Hayes, a rim protector right there with AD. I do believe they did a little bit of overpaying, but I think getting Austin Reeves was their biggest concern, and hopefully he continues to blossom in the player that he's becoming over time. I think Gabe is going to be a huge upgrade at point guard. Also, Cam Reddish can help him at the guard a lot. And I think the biggest problem with LeBron is when you have LeBron, I feel like other players they get complacent, they get comfortable. They don't have that same hunger that they did when they're trying to earn their contracts. That's been the problem in Miami and Cleveland, where once LeBron comes, these players are not playing up to the potential or up to the way they were playing prior to him being there. So that tells me, as long as these people do what they were doing previously, I think the Lakers should also have a great season. I have them going back to the conference finals with the same team. The next team that I really like is the Pacers, and the deal that I really like for them is Halliburton. They gave him the max 280 over the next 5 years. They brought in Obi Toppin. They only had to give up 2 picks. I think Toppin can find his place in the system. The deal that I did not like was Bruce Brown. They gave him 2 years, 45, which was definitely an overpay for a bench player. But the reason I think he got that money is because of what he did in the NBA Finals. He knows he's not going to be like a Hall of Famer or someone who's going to be talked about in the history of the game. So he kind of took that deal and he was like, yo, let me go and just get my money and work towards, stacking up the bag. Next, I would like to also include the Brooklyn Nets. They get a B-. They signed up Cameron Johnson, Lonnie Walker, and Dennis Smith Jr. I think the Nets cleared out a bunch of their useless wings like Joe Harris and the Asian man Watanabe. They let him walk to the Phoenix Suns. So then Brooklyn pretty much got everybody for very cheap. As of right now, it seems like they all might not be a great fit, but they're all very talented two-way players. So I think they could definitely help this team maybe contend with the play-in. We saw Miles Bridges show up really well in the second half of the season. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying they're a contending team, but I think they're a competitive team. Will they make the play-in? I am 50-50 on that, but I think they're going to be very competitive in this upcoming season. Next, the Mavericks, I give them a B-. They were in a tough situation with Kyrie, but they were able to get him on a 3-year, 126 with the play option. So if it doesn't works out over time, kind of helps them, even after 2 years, you can kind of just blow it up and go in a new direction. I think also signing Seth Curry was great. As we know, Luka and Kyrie are magicians with the ball. They could drive and win the ball really well. So that gives them great, kick-out options. And re-signing Dwight Powell was amazing also. He gives them a great veteran presence, and he can lock down the perimeter and kind of give them that lengthy presence that they need in the paint. So some of the final teams I want to talk about is, the Sacramento Kings, I think, had one of the best free agencies. They had over $30 million in cap space to make all the moves that they did, which was primarily they ran most of their team back. And the biggest thing was they gave Sabonis the biggest, the max. So I think that's also, I think, one of those moves where they're trying to establish that this franchise, like the Timberwolves, needs to go in the right direction. They're working towards building, title contention, keeping it attracting for free agents. I do think Trey Lyles was a solid move, especially when all the rumors came out that they're possibly going to get Draymond. So I think that was very solid of them to bring Lyles to to keep him contended with the backcourt. So I think that was a phenomenal move on their point. The last team I want to talk about is the Pelicans. They re-signed Herb Jones for 4 years, 54, which is, I think, a phenomenal deal compared to all the $100 million deals and the Bruce Brown deal, the overpaying that we've seen. So I think it's those are a few good deals. I think the Raptors also did pretty good. They got Schroeder. I think he's a great fit. He's going to replace Van Vliet over in Toronto. I think he can be a great addition. He was extremely solid for the Lakers. So I think over there he kind of has his own role, no one to look over his shoulder. So that was a great deal. Some of the other teams that I give a B- to are the Knicks. The only thing they did is they signed DiVincenzo from the Bucks. They got rid of Topin, which was good because Tom Thibodeau didn't have playing time for him. They re-upped on Josh Hart, which was phenomenal. He played really well for them. He was a difference maker in a few games. The Utah Jazz, I give them a B also, or a B-. All they did was re-sign Clarkson. That keeps a great player there. I don't think they're in title contention. They might fight for a play-in spot. I don't think it's an attracting place for any free agent. So the Jazz are, I think, in a rebuild mode and also like a whatever mode. I don't even know if there's a term for it. Another team that I give a B to is the Clippers. They got Westbrook back on slightly more than a veteran's minimum, which was great value for them. Plumlee they re-signed, which is going to be a nice backup for the team and gives them front court depth behind Zubac. Wizards, they get a C+. They re-up Kyle Kuzma, traded for Jordan Poole. I think that gives them a great 1-2 punch for the next few years. I think maybe they too can develop into a good 1-2 punch to maybe attract a third person who can start taking this team towards the playoff contention. Memphis was also, I wouldn't give him a C+, I'd give him a B-. They needed some strength at point guard, so they got Derrick Rose to fill that role temporarily while Ja is gone for the first 25 games. But I also think that D. Rose is going to be a great mentor to Ja. I think Morant needed that with all the troubles he had in the past season. They also gave Desmond Bane a max. They kind of kept their core together. To me, I think giving Bane the max, I don't think that was a good decision, especially based on last season. They gave it to a player who was sometimes coming off the bench. So I haven't seen that previously in NBA history, a bench player get max extension. But he's young. He was solid in the playoffs, so I see why they gave it to him. But to me, still, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Some teams that I think had a bad free agency would be the Sixers. They're on the verge of losing James Harden. They got one person, which is Patrick Beverley. He's on his 11th team. God knows he's going for the record for the most teams probably. Miami, I would also say, is one of the failures. They seems like they're going all after Lillard. They haven't been able to pull it off. They lost key players in Vincent and Strus. They did pick up Josh Richardson, re-upped with Kevin Love. They got Thomas Bryant, which could also give them a big man next to Bam or as backup. But overall, a team that went to the finals and losing key pieces, I don't see them as winners. I see them more as losers. I do think the Rockets are a loser also in this free agency. They got Van Vliet, Dylan Brooks, Jeff Green. So it makes sense that they brought in veteran presence. But to me, they overpaid with Brooks, 4 years, $80 million, fully guaranteed. Brooks, yeah, he's a great defender and all that, but the behavior we've seen, it's been very erratic at times. You don't need that when you have a young core that needs to be developed. But I feel like with the Rockets, majority of people are betting on the coach to create that culture, bring that toughness, focus on defense. So I think for the Rockets, a lot rides on how they're coach develops the system with all these players. Thank you for tuning in for the episode. Really appreciate all the support you guys always show, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 1,000, whoever listens. I do appreciate it. The feedback. I try my best to make this a better podcast. Hopefully, we can bring in guests in the future, some local people, maybe celebrities, athletes, whatever. Just last things that I'm going to talk about is one of the most, probably the worst deal that I saw was the Jeremy Grant. And it's more of a bad deal because of what Dame did. I think Dame waited to get his boy his money, which is great, right? You look out for your boys, you do all that, especially in this cutthroat business where you can be cut in a second. So you waited till his boy got his deal, and then Dame was like, "I'm out. Get me traded. I'm not part of all this. I don't like it." So I think it was bad for the Blazers to give Grant the money that they did, especially knowing that, within the upcoming months or days, they're going to be getting rid of Dame. So hopefully they get a great package. Um, just yesterday, I was watching old games of the NFL, and it's crazy. I can't wait for it. The NFL is back in about 60 to 63 days for the season. So I think preseason's only like maybe a month away. Summer League is on right now. I've been watching that. So, sports doesn't feel the same, but there's a few things looking forward to and upcoming in the next few days or weeks. But again, as always, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all the messages that are maybe 2 or 3 to help me get better at this. I'm going to try to bring more consistency in this, episode every few days, making sure we're getting the latest stuff out, bringing the average fan's opinion to the masses. So definitely it's going to bring more consistency again and hopefully more listeners. Also, if you guys can, like, share, subscribe on every podcast that you listen to, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or Google. Definitely tune into our YouTube page and our Instagram page. Also, like, follow, and subscribe there. Leave comments. As always, I will hopefully see you guys on the next episode. Thank you, and peace out.